trap of modesty. You've heard it your whole life. Don't be arrogant. Stay humble. Nobody likes a show-off. And you listened because you're not stupid. You were taught that drawing too much attention to yourself makes you a target. So you did the mature thing. You learned to downplay. You watered yourself down in conversations. You let others speak first. You gave disclaimers before sharing your ideas. I might be wrong, but you thought this was virtue. You thought it was character, but it wasn't. It was training. Here's the uncomfortable truth. That advice was never given in a vacuum. It didn't come from some wise, neutral observer. It came from two kinds of people. One, those beneath you, who wanted to drag you down so they'd feel better. And two, those above you, who wanted to protect their position by keeping you from climbing. They both wore the same mask. Just be modest. But it wasn't for your benefit. It was to keep you small. Ask yourself this. Why do the most successful people in the world, the ones who truly made it, rarely say, stay humble? Because they know something most people don't. Downplaying yourself doesn't protect you. It erases you. Ever notice how mediocrity applauds your modesty? When you're the sharpest person in the room, they'll praise your humility. Because it reassures them. It confirms you won't be competition. It's a social contract. As long as you don't rise too fast, we won't resent you. But as soon as you start moving with clarity, as soon as you stop apologizing for your presence, they'll say you've changed. And then there's the opposite end. The gatekeepers. People who tell you not to chase power because they already have it. They tell you to be humble because your ambition is getting too close to theirs. They use language like staying grounded, but what they really mean is, don't threaten my position. So here you are, stuck between people who fear you rising and people who fear you catching up, and both have given you the same advice. Downplay yourself. But now you see the game. This was never about your growth. It was about their comfort, the invisible cost. You thought being modest would keep you safe, but it didn't. It just made you invisible. Noticed how your ideas get echoed back to you, louder when someone else says them. Have you seen someone with less experience, less talent, and less insight get promoted before you? You probably told yourself it's fine, that it's not a big deal, that you didn't want the spotlight anyway. But deep down, you did. You wanted to be seen. You wanted your value to be obvious. But you made the mistake of thinking value speaks for itself. It doesn't. The world doesn't reward quiet excellence. It rewards those who know how to frame their excellence. That's why the loud ones rise. The ones who speak with certainty. The ones who say the same thing you said, but without apology. You thought they were arrogant. Maybe they are, but they're also winning. Look at how the world treats confidence, even fake confidence, in job interviews, on dating apps, in negotiation, in media, in leadership. We are wired to follow the person who projects certainty, not the one who's most right, not the one with the best ethics, not the one who downplays themselves for the sake of politeness, the one who walks into the room like they belong. Take Michael Jordan. He wasn't humble. He didn't shrink himself. He demanded excellence and made no apologies for it. And that's why we remember him. Because he made himself undeniable. Now think of how many brilliant people you've never heard of. Geniuses with no spotlight. Masters of their craft who go unrecognized, simply because they never made noise. They kept their heads down. They stayed humble. They downplayed themselves right into obscurity. Every time you downplay your talent, You reinforce a lie. I don't deserve more than this. I'm okay being overlooked. I don't need to be seen. You say it to protect yourself, but all you're really doing is training the world not to value you. They won't see what you don't show. They won't respect what you don't demand. They won't elevate what you keep burying. So ask yourself, how much has that mindset already cost you? How many relationships failed because you couldn't express your full self? How many opportunities passed you by because you didn't say what needed to be said? How many times did you watch someone else get the credit while you stood silent? Now imagine 10 more years of that, still downplaying, still shrinking, still making sure everyone else feels comfortable, while your potential sits in the shadows. That's the real cost, the mechanics of power. Power isn't what you have, it's what people think you have. That's why perception beats truth every time. You could be the most capable person in the room, but if you come across as unsure, they won't trust you. You could be the most moral, but if you look weak, they won't follow you. You could have all the answers, but if you sound like you're asking for permission, they'll never listen. Because in this world, the story sells before the facts. That's what the confident people already know. They know it's not about being the smartest. It's about looking like you've figured something out. That's why mediocre people often outrank the brilliant. It's why manipulators rise while the kind stay stuck. It's why the person who projects composure earns more trust than the one who explains too much. They don't wait to be noticed. They create an image and guard it ruthlessly. This is what people misunderstand about power. They think it's about dominance, about raising your voice or controlling others. But power, real power, starts with presence. It's the quiet confidence. The look that says, I know who I am. The posture that doesn't beg for validation. The stillness that doesn't flinch when challenged. Ever seen someone enter a room and shift the atmosphere without saying a word? That's presence. They didn't earn that by accident. They trained it. They mastered the subtle art of control. Control of voice, control of image, control of emotional reaction. Control of what they choose not to say. Think of someone like Denzel Washington, rarely loud, rarely chaotic. But when he speaks, people lean in. Not because he demands attention, but because he carries it without effort. Or think of Jocko Willink, a man of few words, but every word lands, because he's mastered the art of emotional stillness. You don't need to be loud. You just need to be solid. You want people to take you seriously? Stop over-explaining. Stop rushing to justify yourself. Stop softening your edges to make others comfortable. Because here's the paradox. The less you try to prove yourself, the more people believe you. And the moment you internalize that, the moment you stop performing for approval, you stop being overlooked. You start being felt. Weaponize your uniqueness. Here's the irony. The thing you've been hiding might be the thing that sets you apart. Your quirks, your background, your voice, your intensity. You've been sanding it down, making it smoother, more acceptable. But in trying to be accepted, you made yourself forgettable. We are taught to conform, to speak a certain way, to act a certain way, to not make others uncomfortable with our ambition, our intelligence, or our instincts. But look closely. Nobody becomes unforgettable by fitting in. Nobody builds a legacy by being moderately liked by everyone. The people you admire, they didn't succeed despite their uniqueness. They succeeded because of it. Take Tyler, the creator, his voice, his look, his weirdness. It didn't fit the mold. He broke the mold. Or Miyamoto Musashi, the Japanese swordsman who refused to follow traditional samurai norms. His unpredictability made him a legend. He didn't trim himself down. He doubled down on being untamed. The truth is this: conformity breeds safety. Uniqueness breeds power. But only if you own it. That's what most people never do. They water themselves down until no part of them feels sharp anymore. No edge, no bite, no magnetism. And then they wonder why they aren't remembered. People don't follow sameness. They follow energy. They follow identity. They follow the one who doesn't flinch when misunderstood. Because something about that feels like leadership. You think being a little different is a liability, only if you treat it like one. When you speak like you know who you are, when you act like you're not asking for approval, you signal something rare. I've already accepted myself, and that's contagious. That's magnetic. That's power. So stop rounding your edges. Stop dumbing yourself down. Stop making yourself smaller so someone else can feel big. There is no one else with your exact mind, your exact voice, your exact pain. Why would you waste that trying to become a copy? Weaponize what makes you different. Because if you don't, someone else will. And they'll be the one people remember. Your power is waiting. Let's be honest. You already know you're capable of more. You've known for years. It's not a question of talent. It's a question of permission. But here's the twist. Nobody's coming to give you that permission. Nobody's going to say, now it's time to stop downplaying yourself. That moment you're waiting for, where someone validates you into your full power, it's not real. You either step into it, or you stay where you are. There's a quiet war going on inside you, between who you are and who you've been trained to be. Every time you hold back a truth, every time you downplay your wins, every time you silence your instincts, you're choosing who wins that war. And the scariest part? The longer you wait, the harder it gets to switch sides. But it's not too late. Power isn't a spotlight you stand in. It's a decision you make, the posture you hold, a standard you refuse to drop. You don't need to start by screaming your value from rooftops. You start in quieter ways. Speak when you would have stayed silent. Correct someone when they twist your words. Hold eye contact 1 second longer than feels safe. Let your tone drop when you say what you believe. Say no without apology. These are not small things. These are the reps of power. Think of Keanu Reeves, soft-spoken, humble, but not unsure. He doesn't need to dominate the room. He simply takes up space, unapologetically. Now imagine yourself with that same calm gravity, not arrogance, not performance, just the quiet knowing. I belong here. The world doesn't need another fake voice, another polished brand, another clone. It needs you. Not the version you edited down for mass approval. The real one. The one who already knows. The one who's been waiting. The one who's sick of being muted. So the final question is this: how much longer will you let people decide your worth? Because the moment you stop waiting for permission, the moment you stop downplaying, softening, hiding, that's the moment everything changes. And when it does, they won't be able to ignore you, because you'll be too clear, too certain, too unapologetically you to ever fade into the background again.